And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thank you for joining us today for the aviation portion of your broadcast. I'm meteorologist Emily Niebuhr. Let's take a look at your flying conditions for your Saturday. We have several weak systems impacting much of the state. So again, we're looking for IFR conditions. Again, that's instrument flight rules, which means lower visibilities along the Alaska Peninsula and portions of Bristol Bay and the eastern Aleutian Islands. Meanwhile, we have a weak low along the North Arctic coast, which will also be causing lower visibilities and ceilings as well. Finally, we have in the eastern part of the Gulf of Alaska, we also have a weakening frontal system that's going to be causing lower ceilings and clouds. Saturday afternoon, some of that mixes out in Bristol Bay and we improve to MVFR conditions. Meanwhile, that North Arctic low is not moving anywhere fast and keeping low visibilities across the northern part of our state. Finally, we also see that frontal system dissipates and mixes out some of the clouds towards the afternoon hours for your Saturday afternoon. Sunday morning, again, we have a weak low pressure system and associated front that's going to be impacting Kodiak, and that's going to be causing IFR conditions across much of the area. That low pressure system stays stubborn in the North Arctic coast. Again, widespread low ceilings along our North Arctic regions. Finally, for your Sunday afternoon, widespread MVFR conditions along much of the Bering Sea coast. We still have that low pressure system causing widespread low visibilities along the Arctic coast. And we also have this system impacting the Alaska Peninsula and eastern, also a separate system impacting the eastern portion of the Gulf of Alaska. So again, a lot of weak systems are going to be impacting visibilities across the state for this weekend. Taking a look at your pass conditions. Anaktuvuk Pass, we're going to start at VFR, but deteriorate towards IFR conditions by the afternoon hours. Atakim Pass is going to experience similar conditions, VFR conditions in the morning, but deteriorating towards IFR conditions by your afternoon hours. Lake Clark, on the other hand, and Merrill are expected to be mostly VFR conditions throughout much of your day on Saturday. Same story at Rainy Pass, VFR conditions. Windy Pass will start at IFR conditions with an improvement towards MVFR conditions by the afternoon hours. Isabel Pass will start at IFR conditions with improving towards MVFR conditions by the afternoon. Mentasta Pass will start at MVFR conditions but improving towards VFR by your afternoon and evening hours. Dunedin Pass started as VFR conditions but deteriorating towards MVFR conditions, lower visibilities and ceilings by the afternoon hours. Portage is going to remain with low clouds and stratus MVFR conditions for much of your Saturday there. Chilkoot and White Passes, it's going to start out fairly good visibilities on your Saturday, but deteriorating to IFR conditions by your afternoon hours. Looking at our freezing levels across the state, we do have much cooler air to the west along, you can see the freezing levels only at 2,000 feet for much of the western portion of the state. You have to go all the way out to Canada to get up to 10,000 feet for your freezing levels further east, again with that ridge. But again, widespread cooler conditions. Again, this is the freezing level at the surface all the way up towards the Chukchi Sea. So cold air across the state. For your icing, we have several systems impacting the state as we were looking at earlier. And so we're expecting isolated to moderate icing near Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, and also associated with that low up north. Meanwhile, considerable moderate icing associated with that decaying frontal system for your Saturday. Looking at your jet stream, our strongest jet, 145 knots at 30,000 feet across the central and western Aleutians. We have a separate southerly jet moving across, associated with that low up north and across much of the North Arctic coast. At 9,000 feet, that jet diminishes substantially, and we only have fairly light winds at 9,000 feet. We do have about 35 knots across the Bering Sea, 9,000 feet. And associated with the low farther west, we do have 65 knots. As we go to 3,000 feet, again, fairly weak winds, maybe about 40 knots off of the Alaska Peninsula, but generally not too windy across much of our state at 3,000 feet. Only a few pockets of turbulence. Again, these systems are fairly weak. So we're looking at Considerable moderate across the eastern Aleutians and portions of the Alaska Peninsula. Meanwhile, we also have considerable moderate in the Panhandle, service to 6,000 feet.